Straight out the boot room to Wembley, our second home. We come to conquer, no, we never walk alone. We dominate the cream of the crop, drawing all our strength from the roar of the cock. It's all for one and one for all. Pass a move, we're talking total football. Here we go again, Roy's red machine. Liverpool, the greatest team the world has ever seen. Pass a move, it's the Liverpool crew. Pass a move, it's the Liverpool crew. Pass a move, 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 it's the Liverpool crew.
Hello and welcome back to the Liverpool Groove. I'm joined today by Italian football journalist Nima Tavallaey, who is the host of the Italian Football Podcast. Lots of work over involved in Italian football. And we're just going to preview the Atalanta game today. So Nima, thank you very much for taking the time to join me.
It's good to be with you guys.
And yourself, as always. Before we get into the Atalanta game, wanted to just ask you very quickly about Roberto De Zerbi. Obviously, he's a name that's being linked to the Liverpool job quite a bit, with Jurgen Klopp leaving, of course. While it does seem unlikely that he's going to join, do you think his style of play would be welcome at Liverpool?
Look, he's, in my opinion, I remember De Zerbi from Sassuolo, and he was always an exciting coach. Ever since he's come to Brighton, I think he has performed a miracle. I honestly think what he has done with Brighton is unbelievable. And if you look at the squad they have this season in particular, in my opinion, in the Premier League, I only think Sheffield United and Luton have on paper a worse squad. I think they are one of the worst squads on paper in the Premier League. Now, if you take into consideration the fact that they're mid-table, they're actually done pretty all right in Europe and so on, competing on several fronts. I think he's really performed a miracle, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have deficiencies, which there are, and these primarily lay in the defensive area on the pitch. His attacking, the way that he views the game in terms of attacking build-up, link-up play, is unique. He's one of, if not the most exciting, then one of the most exciting, not just Italian football coaches out there, but young coaches, period. I do think that he will be coaching at a big club within a couple of years. My only thing is, I don't think he's ready for the Liverpool job. I don't think he's ready for the Man City job. Liverpool this season, fighting for the league title. That kind of level of club, I don't think he's ready for that just yet, because, and again, I base that on on what he's done at Brighton defensively, because big clubs also have to know how to defend. It's a big part of that. It's easier to be more progressive when you're a smaller club, because most opponents who play against you don't, they attack you, right? Because they they fancy their chances. When you are a big team, when you are a big club or a big squad that's fighting for the title, you won't get as many, teams will try to hurt you on the counter. They'll try to, exploit your weaknesses. And Roberto De Zerbi's defensive tactics have giant holes in them. And I think Liverpool, if he comes, then for you guys, I would not expect him to fight for the title. Liverpool is a very special club in the sense that you guys, when you have a manager, you're a very patient fan base in that aspect compared to others, in the sense that you believe in a project. You all rally around your manager. You're like, well, like with Klopp, he was there for a couple of seasons, lost a couple of finals, and then, look at him now. He's a legend, right? That's very typical of Liverpool. So if you bring him in, you're going to have to give him time. You're going to have to allow him to learn on the job. But if you're expecting someone to come in and continue immediately where Klopp left off, you're going to be disappointed. But having said that, he is a very attacking manager. Some of the stuff that he comes up with is genius. It really is. It's unique. He views football in the attacking phase like few others. The problem, again, as I say, is I have severe, big doubts regarding how he can organize a defense. I mean, I've seen him get schooled and have his pants pulled down repeatedly defensively. In the latest time was, the last time I saw that was where he was really exposed, was against Roma in the Europa League, where Daniele De Rossi, who this is his real first job. I mean, I don't want to count the the parentheses of time he spent at Spal in the Serie B, which was dreadful. But he's far from the finished product too, and he just completely schooled De Zerbi.
Hmm.
Like it was, they could have won by 6-0. It wasn't even close, and that's the problem when teams neutralize his attack, there's so many holes in his teams that teams can rip them apart.
Has that always been something with his team? You mentioned his time at Sassuolo. I believe he
Yes.
was at Shakhtar before Brighton.
Mm.
Has that always been a thing with him, has it?
I think the Shakhtar thing we can't really say too much because he was barely there before the war started, and he left. But I think with Sassuolo, yes, Sassuolo was a attack heavy team. They scored lots of goals, but they also conceded, and they were also very open, and that's why he never really succeeded too well at in terms of results in the Serie A. But what he did do was allow players to develop, attacking players to develop, and they played some really interesting attacking football.
Yeah.
But again, if you bring him in, you're going to have to give him 1 or 2 seasons to understand the job because he will improve players. He's fantastic at working with youngsters. His attacking football, when it works, is truly, truly unique. It's special. It's some would even argue that he's one of those coaches who, in terms of his attacking movement, is actually a visionary, even, you know. Guardiola loves him for that specific reason. They view the attacking side of the game very similarly. But Pep Guardiola, despite whatever the narrative is, Guardiola also knows how to defend. And that's why he's won so many trophies as he has. I mean, leaving aside the financial aspects of Manchester City, which we could probably spend 3 hours on. But leaving aside that, whether he was when he was in Bayern, when he was at Barcelona, he knows how to defend. Um, De Zerbi, in my opinion, really doesn't yet, and there are huge gaping holes in his
Yeah.
teams.
Do you think he's better served staying at Brighton for the time being?
I think he should leave Brighton in the summer, but I would like to see him at a middle step club. You know what I mean? Like somewhere like Spurs, if he goes to Aston Villa, somewhere like that, a team or thereabouts in the Europa League kind of category. I mean, if West Ham wisen up and get rid of, that dinosaur they've got in Moyes, I would actually like to see what De Zerbi could do with that squad. Because I'd like to see him take one step upwards. I think going from Brighton to Liverpool City, it's yeah,
Too big of a jump.
way big of a jump.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the tactics, it's handling big personalities, it's everything around it. It's the fans, the media, everything around it. I think it would be doing him some injustice if we didn't, if he did, because I really think he's got an interesting career ahead of him. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, moving on to the Atlanta game then. When the draw was made for this tie, I think a lot of Liverpool fans were viewing it as a bullet dodged in a way. One of the easier ties that were left in the Europa League. Do you think that's a little disrespectful towards the ability of a Atlanta squad at the moment?
Well, Atalanta is an interesting one because this is Gasperini, the coach. This is Gasperini's Atalanta Project 3.0. He's had two very successful teams previously. Now this is the third team that he's built and put together. They are, as my colleague on the Italian football podcast, Carlo Garganese, says, the best run club pound for pound in the world. It's a small, tiny provincial side in the north of Italy, who in Bergamo, who managed to turn huge profits whilst also have one of the best scouting networks and abilities to pick up talent anywhere in the world. They continue to play in Europe. I mean, they were just minutes away from the semi-final of the Champions League a few years ago, which is unheard of for a small club like Atalanta. They play fantastically. They used to play some really incredible attacking football, very high intensity, high press. But Gasperini is very, very, he's an old fox. He's not new. He's not a new kid on the block. He's been around. He knows. I remember when Mourinho was at Inter in 09, 010, he said that playing against Gasperini was one of the most difficult things he's ever done because everything he did tactically, Gasperini responded, and he is very tactically astute. So I don't, I don't bullet dodged. I mean, of course, Bayer Leverkusen, Roma, Milan, those might be more sexier names, but I do think there are worse teams in the Europa League now than Atalanta. Atalanta, if I'm not, if I remember correctly, the Atalanta beat Liverpool a couple of seasons ago in the Champions League at Anfield. So, you have to be switched on. But this is a new Atalanta. This is year one in this new Atalanta 3.0 under Gasperini, and so I do. Of course, Liverpool are huge favourites. Everyone sees that, but I think you have to kill them off. You can't let them go to the return leg at home with a draw, or just if minimum, you need to have 2 goals safeguard, I think, in order to I think you need to have, going into the second leg, at least a couple of goals advantage, because this is a side, Atalanta, who they like when they start switching things around, and when they start, like, it's like going into a, like, it's like going through a centrifuge almost. The way that they press, the way that they pass quickly and win the ball, and it can be really difficult, especially at their stadium as well. There they can beat anyone, and so I think Liverpool would want to kill this game off in the first leg as much as possible. If they're having one of those days where Klopp has been able to find and exploit the spaces that they do leave behind them, you would want, as a Liverpool fan, to score 2, 3 goals and kill them off. Because if you go into that return leg in Bergamo, that's not an easy place to go. That's not an easy place to go, and they are very good at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Liverpool's only experience of going there was during the COVID time, and there was no fans there, and we did get a favourable result. But like you say, they beat Liverpool at Anfield, so the ability and talent is very clearly there. They've lost 2 in a row since beating Napoli 3-0 away, which magnificent result based on Napoli last season. I know they're not having the greatest of seasons this time around. Was that Napoli result thanks to Atalanta being really good on the day, or was that more a case of a continuation of Napoli's poor season?
I think it was both. Now, Atalanta were outstanding that day, and Napoli were a meme defensively. They weren't even a joke. They were a meme. 2 of those goals were. It's not even Sunday League defending. It's not even pub defending. I don't even know what to call that. I mean, if you go and watch 2 of those goals, the opening goal in particular was just shocking. Professional footballers defending like that is just. I've really never seen anything like it. But above all, Scamacca. That's the person you need to watch out for. He scored 12 goals and counting this season, 4 in his last 6 games and across all competitions. He's firing. He really is a player who can create something out of nothing. He's a big, strong guy. He's big, can hold up the ball, target man, but he can also create something out of nothing. These comparisons to Ibrahimovic are exaggerated, but you do understand why they make them, or they draw similarities between them. Because he is a technical player, he can really create something out of nothing, and he did so in that game against Napoli. It was barely a chance, and then the ball's in the back of the net. He is important. Corp Miner's incredibly important. I think he's going to be one of the next big Atalanta sale in the summer. The midfielder, Dutch midfielder, he's so good. No, they do have Ederson, the Brazilian. They have Ademola Lookman. No, they have players that can hurt you.
Yeah, well, I mean, Lookman was one person I was going to bring up. Obviously, Liverpool fans will be very familiar with him. His time at Everton, lots of time in the Premier League, and I feel like he's really had a bit of a career revival at Atlanta. How important is he to the way Atalanta play?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you look at the attacking players, I mean, they play a 3-4-2-1. You got the Kettler, Lookman, Scamacca, Kopp minus Miranchuk, El Bilal Torre, and he will, Gasperini will rotate amongst them, but depending on what the game he feels needs. So it's not just Lookman, it's not just De Ketelaere, it's not just Koopman. It's of course De Ketelaere had a horrid time at Milan, but he's having a revival at Atalanta. Above primarily as a playmaker, assists and that. Lookman's had a decent season, not been, perhaps his best by any chance, but by any stretch of the imagination. But he's had a decent season. He's 8 goals, I think, in the across in the Serie A, and 4 assists or something like that. So no, he's had a decent, but Gasperini rotates a lot, and he has players that he has five, 6 players for 3 roles, which all can give him different things.
Yeah. You mentioned there about Atlanta sort of being in a rebuilding phase this season. Gasperini 3.0. How would you assess their season?
I'd say it's been fair, it's been good. I mean, they still have a chance to make the Champions League because Italy, I think England and Italy, Premier League and Serie A, will have 5 teams in the Champions League because of how well they've done in Europe. In fact, Serie A is the highest ranked for performances this season in Europe, in terms of ahead of next season when the Champions League format changes. But they're doing well. I mean, they're sixth. They're 5 points off fifth with a game in hand. Of course, their game against Fiorentina was postponed after the tragic death of Fiorentina director Joe Barone a couple of weeks ago. So so no, look, they're still. It's going to be a dogfight between them, Roma, and Bologna for 2 Champions League places. They're also in the Coppa Italia semi-final against Fiorentina. That too, they lost the first leg 1-0. They've had an absolutely horrific fixture list. Like it's been games every 2, 3 days for the last almost a month and a half. So they've really, really, really they are exhausted. They're stretched. And I think that's what Liverpool should take advantage of from a Liverpool perspective at Anfield to try to play, to really play Klopp's heavy metal football and put them through the ringer, and exhaust them, and score a couple of goals, and then you can end that tie in the first leg. So yeah, they are a bit tired. They are a bit tired. But I'd give them. I mean, the fact that this tiny little club again, they're sixth, they're fighting for Champions League place. They're in the semi-final of the Italian Cup. They're Coppa Italia. They're in the quarter-final of the Europa League. It's outstanding. You can never, like, you can't for this tiny little club, this tiny little provincial side. It's truly unbelievable. It really is so impressive.
Yeah,
So probably a 7 so far, 7 out of 10 or something like that.
yeah. Good season for them, especially with the rebuild ongoing, as you say. Um, One player who has been touted as a future star is Giorgio Scalvini. How good do you think he could become? How high is his ceiling?
I have to be honest with you. I don't think he's a very good defender. I think he's played out of position. He's fairly slow. He's not too strong physically. But what he is good at, he's good at reading the game. He's good at timing and winning the ball. And I think technically he's really good. He's a good passer. He's not very good aerially. I honestly think he shouldn't be playing in defense. I would rather see him in some sort of a midfield holding role. I think that he'd be better there. But yes, he is a very talented player. Um, but I'm not I mean, as a defender, I want my defenders to be able to defend. Giorgio Scalvini doesn't know how to defend. It's just the howlers, the mistakes he makes are schoolboy era level mistakes many times. And he is young, yes, but I just don't see it defensively on him. But in the attacking phase, passing, timing, runs, read of the game, technically, he's very good. He's very good.
Do you think it's is there something in there that maybe trying to get him in the squad any way they can because of his
Yes,
profile in world football?
yes, and it's not just that. It's also because Gasperini is a very attacking minded coach. He's a very attacking. He's him and De Zerbi are. It's attack first, defense second. And it's high intensity, it's high press. So yeah, no, he suits what Gasperini does. I mean, Atalanta players generally tend to not do well away from Atalanta, and the reason for that is that Gasperini has a system where he puts players in that system and they work really well in that system. and he gets, he plays to he has this ability, he has a system where he manages to get the players he's got to express their most positive traits in that system. And when they go somewhere else, their deficiencies usually are exposed. That's been kind of the case overall. This Yes, so far with most of those big name transfers, except for maybe Rasmus Højlund, who I think has a huge future regardless. Although, in my opinion, Man United massively overpaid. But Atalanta then again know how to charge for their players. It's an expensive shop, as they say in Italy. Atalanta it's an expensive shop to enter.
Yeah. Now, now when you mention it, yeah, I don't think there's many off the top of my head that I can think of that have left Atalanta and gone on to achieve the same levels of success. So yeah, clearly a very system oriented team. So if Atalanta are to have any success in the game in both legs against Liverpool, what do you think the key will be?
I think the key will be to not concede in the opening 15 minutes at Anfield. That has to be the key. They have to be compact, they have to be concentrated, they have to be, they can't be naive in how they press, and they can't be too deep. They have to be very disciplined, which Gasperini knows how to do. Again, I've seen him completely nullify games, even though he is a very attacking minded coach. He absolutely knows how to shut games down. I think that's the key. They need to frustrate Liverpool. They need to get to throw Liverpool out of their rhythm, and then on the counter attack, when Liverpool might not be switched on, hurt Liverpool on the counter.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Nima, thank you very much for joining me and
Pleasure.
previewing the game. It's been wonderful to chat. Make sure you are following Nima and the Italian Football Podcast on Twitter. I will share the links to that in the post when I post it on social media. And I will also link the Italian Football Podcast YouTube page on the description of the video as well. But yeah, Nima, thank you very much.
Good to be with you.